People have told me that there's rather a lot of pearl being featured recently. Okay, so that's actually not true at all. But it is actually, well, it is true and it isn't true. No one's told me that, but there has been a lot of pearl featured on the channel recently, and I think the reason is because I've bought a lot of pearl drum kits. Wasn't really something that I intended to do, but I think I've probably got about as much in the way of pearl these days as I do Tama. And at some point, I will actually count the amount of kits that I have. I'm guessing it's probably about 10 Tama and 10 Pearl by now. And then a whole load of other stuff as well. So, I'll do that at some point. But, if you're thinking I've already done this video, you're half right. This is the President Series Deluxe. This is in the nice ocean blue, I think ocean blue ripple finish. But these are, or rather this is, the smaller kit. So those of you who don't know anything about the President Series Deluxe, basically they've only offered them in two kit configurations and one snare drum. Now, in the last video, I did say that I was keen to possibly find a way to maybe get a 12-inch tom so I could put it with the other kit. The other kit being 13, 16, 22. And whilst I'm actually warming a lot these days to having a 13-inch rack tom up front, mainly because I've had to, with several kits that I bought recently, all have a 13 as a rack tom. Yeah, I've kind of warmed to that a little bit, but my preferred rack tom size, if I'm going to go one up, one down, is basically 12. And I think I did sort of muse slightly about possibly getting a 12 at some point, and I thought, you know what, a 14 would also be kind of cool, so I could maybe do 13, 14, 16, or 12, 14, 16, or, if I was going to be really radical, 12, 13, 14, 16, and then have the choice of a 22 or a 20-inch kick drum. So I just basically bought the other kit, and I bought the only one that I could actually find online. I'm pretty sure there's at least one other shop that has one, but that was basically way more. So I bought this kit anyway, and I have to say, I'm as happy with this one as I was with the other one. Now, I'm not going to go over all the specs again, basically because they're the same as the last one. But as I said, I think it's worth noting the sizes of these drums. So you've got a 12 by 8, a 14-14, and a 20 by 14. It's funny. I mean, I've actually just done a full review of this kit for MikeDelby.com. Now, the really weird thing is right now, currently, just sat in the other room, is another kit in these very sizes. Basically, it's the other finish. Now, the UK only got two finishes: the ocean blue ripple, and the desert. I'll put a picture up. So what I did actually was I played it with the original heads, which are the Remo UTs with the CS dot on the top and a clear ambassador on the bottom, and then on the kick drum there was the CS dot. In fact, there was this CS dot. There was a CS dot, and then there was the logo head, the coated logo head on the front. So I did that, and despite, I have to say, and it was much to my pleasant surprise, that despite me noting in the previous video, I couldn't understand why Pearl put, well, first of all, UT heads on a kit like this, and secondly, black dot UT heads on a kit like this, because these are professional kits. There's nothing really sort of cheap about them. There's nothing that's sort of particularly low end about them. They're not priced. In fact, actually, maybe just a price. The price is kind of like an intermediate sort of kit. But you know what? There's nothing cheap about these kits. So why they came with cheap heads, still don't know. But. And this is something I did with this kit specifically that I didn't do with the other one, or indeed the snare drum, was that I actually played it with the UT heads on. And much to my very pleasant surprise, it actually sounded alright. It sounded pretty good actually, especially under the microphones. The floor tom particularly, with the UT head on, just seemed to ring for ages. In fact, actually, it was one of those situations where I was having to mute the thing with my hand after I'd finished playing. It was ringing for that long, and that's with cheap heads on. So that was wonderful. Now, I did actually put, so the snare drum's actually got a, I think since the last video, I've actually put I put Remos back on here actually. So basically both kits have got Remos on, or they will have anyway. The kick drum still hasn't on the other kit, but this has now got, this has actually got the original, I put the original, there you go, I put the original UT head back on the snare side, but it's got a diplomat fibre skin on the top now, on the batter, and I have to say, I just love, this has got such a lovely open sound to it, and that whole sort of fibre skin, diplomat fibre skin, is something that Russ Miller had talked about, and I think it's a jolly fine idea, if I do say so. So the man does know what he's talking about, and so he should. But On the on the 12-inch, I've got a coated Emperor, regular coated Emperor, and a clear ambassador on the bottom. Now, on the 14, I did search like high and low, and despite the fact that I've got dozens of drum heads out there. Yeah, apparently I didn't have a regular coated Emperor. So I've got a vintage Emperor, vintage coated Emperor on the floor tom batter, and at the moment, because I didn't have any regular clear ambassadors either, it does make you wonder what I've got out there, because I've got dozens, as I said, I've got dozens of heads, and I'm struggling to find useful things. But I didn't have a clear ambassador for the 14, so I've basically left the regular UT head on. There's a little bit, I think there's a little bit of imbalance between the two. Certainly acoustically in the room, there's a little bit of an imbalance. It's not much. It's not something that necessarily everyone would notice, but I've noticed it, and I think that's probably to do with the sort of inequality of the two resonant heads, but I'll fix that as soon as I can. Now on the kick drum, I dug out the only I've got loads of 20-inch bass drum heads, but I only had like one coated one. So I've got this is basically a coated Power Stroke Pro. And I'll put a photo up on the screen so you can see that one. But it's a coated Power Stroke Pro, and it's got a large Phalum Slam pad on it as well. So I do want to note, like the one weak point that I felt for this particular kit was actually the kick drum, and really the head choice with the kick drum, and that was because it just seemed to be lacking in presence. There was a very notable sort of when you tune it a certain way, there was a very sort of low 808 sort of subby sort of sound going on, which in itself isn't actually terrible at all, but it's kind of I couldn't get. I was kind of wanting a sort of punchy sound with some body to it, and I've got that now. I think you can hear again. There's a little bit of inequality or rather, that's where the lack of quality shows with the heads, and the change of head is actually funny. It was very noticeable. Because I've been using the PND at the moment in here, and with the with this head on the P&D was really sort of vibrating quite a lot. When I changed them over, I didn't move anything. I didn't move the microphone or anything. I haven't touched the P&D. But now, after the change of heads, there's a much more noticeable control to the sound. Okay, fair enough. The whole thing with the Power Stroke Pro is that it is quite a heavily muted head. So in that respect, no real surprise there. This one of them's got a little dot on, and it is made of a flimsy material. The other one's quite thick and has got a big muffling ring on it and a pad on it. So it's not really a surprise in that respect. But it is almost sort of light and day though for me in that respect. And I think I've had a listen back to the playback already. I've just EQ'd a little bit, not really that much, but for the most part though, it's come up as a nice sort of punchy snare drum. I'm not saying it couldn't be better. It could obviously, but just for sort of a quick mix and stuff, which is generally what I do for these sort of things. It sounds cool. Now, what I really am looking forward to is maybe throwing up the other bass drum. It's behind the camera, but throwing up maybe the other bass drum and having the 12, 16, 22 thing going on. That'd be fun too. But I've got to say, I keep got to say that there's definitely these kits have definitely got a vibe to them. It does feel to me like I am playing a vintage drum kit, except without all of the hassle and headaches that potentially come with a vintage drum kit. This looks great. It looks fun from this side of the kit. It feels fun to play from this side of the kit, and now I've changed the heads. It's kind of got that more sort of like that more vintagey vibe to it as well. All in all, though. I love these drums. I don't regret buying 2 kits. I mean, as I said, I've got all of the drums available in this finish now. I'm going to look forward to playing them. I really do. I mean, other people like them as well. Other people like the look of them. And I did have a couple of comments. I took this kit down to rehearsal last week. I think it was a week before, whenever it was. And there was comments on it. It was great. It sounds great. It looks great. And that was with the stock heads on as well. So, yeah, love these drums. Absolutely do love these drums. I think if you want a modern, vintage feeling sounding kit, you know what? These are a great choice. I think. I really do think that. So, anyway, this is what they look like. This is what they sound like. See you again.